We are less than 1 week away from my first Ironman 70.3. It's my first triathlon ever, so it was a lot to learn. It's been 17 weeks of prep so far. We are in the taper week. We're dialing back the volume and the intensity of training. And now we're prepping for the big trip that I have coming up on Sunday. Today's Monday. I'm gonna go on a quick bike ride before I pack up the bike for good, because I'm in Philly now and we gotta get down to Galveston, Texas for race day. So I figured in this video, let's talk about what I'm planning on bringing down with me for race day and how I'm prepping for that. So let's start with the swim. Of course, the swim is the first part of the race and it requires some key equipment, goggles. I rock Roka essentially for my entire triathlon kit, swimming, biking, and running, Roka everything. So I have the Roka goggles, I have the Roka Maverick MX wetsuit, and then swim cap they're gonna give us at the race. So that's really the entire swim kit. I'll be wearing my Garmin Forerunner 965. I'll be wearing my heart rate monitor. So that's really the kit for swimming. It's pretty simple. You're probably thinking, do I need a wetsuit for my race? And only you can really answer that. The wetsuit, aside from buying a bike, is one of the more expensive aspects of a triathlon. You can always try to find one used, or I got mine during the Christmas sale, so it was basically 50% off, which was incredible. And I looked at it as, will it help me in the swim? Can you afford it? And will it make swimming more fun? And depending on your answers to that is how you'll arrive at your answer of whether or not you'll end up getting a wetsuit. But I think it's important, one, to know whether or not your race allows wetsuit, and that's based off of water temperature. If it's too hot, you could overheat in the wetsuit. That would be no good. And then also for a wetsuit, getting a triathlon specific wetsuit. They make wetsuits for wakeboarding, water skiing, other water sports, but for triathlon specific wetsuits, the neoprene, the buoyancy, the flotation of the wetsuit is designed intentionally to keep you horizontal in the water. And I felt that immediately when I tried on the wetsuit in the pool. I literally just laid on my back and I floated in the water. That is how buoyant the wetsuit was. Incredible. And then of course, when you're swimming, if you ever swim with a pool buoy and you keep your legs raised up so they're not creating drag, that's essentially what the wetsuit's doing too. It keeps your legs floating, keeps your whole body floating, honestly, but it keeps your legs up to reduce drag so you can just glide through the water much more easily. So that's something for you to consider. They make swim skins, you can wear nothing, but for us, it's an early season race, April 6th. The water temperature is gonna be upper 60s, so not exactly the warmest. And it's looking like race day may start in the 40s to 50s with wind chill. So just an extra layer of warmth, so I'm hopefully not shivering too much out in the water. I think transitions are important to talk about too. I've seen a lot of videos and people talking about their transitions, and what I plan on doing for my T1 transition is either next to my bike or under my bike, you have a little towel where you have everything laid out. You have everything laid out and organized so you can grab everything you need without forgetting anything. A towel you can dry off your feet before you put your cycling shoes on. You can clean anything off, if there's sand, dirt, whatever, wipe your face, and then you have everything you need organized and lined up so you can just take your wetsuit off, neatly put that away, get all your cycling stuff on, hop on the bike, and get after it. Same thing with the run. Everything is nice and neat, ready to go for when you come back from the bike. You take your bike stuff off, you put it back neatly, and then you throw your running gear on, and then you're off. So I think it's important to keep everything organized. That's my game plan. Keep it all organized. You can see everything. Make sure you have everything. and make sure you don't forget anything most importantly. Let's talk about the bike. Starting from the top down, I'm rocking the A-Bus Game Changer 2.0 MIPS helmet. I decided to get this helmet for the Aero Gains a little earlier this season. So I'm going with the A-Bus Game Changer 2.0 helmet. I have my Roka Matador Air glasses. Depending on the weather is what is going to determine which color lens I'm going to wear. If it's overcasty, cloudy, rainy, I'm going to wear my transition lens that go from clear to black depending on how sunny it is. Underneath my tri-suit, I'm wearing the Garmin heart rate monitor the entire time. So I'll have that on. I have the tri-suit on, obviously, that has the chamois built in. That's what I'm gonna wear underneath the wetsuit, on the bike, and for the run. So that'll be an all-day attire right there. And then on my feet, I have my Lake cycling shoes. I have a wider foot, and Lake makes the best shoe for anybody who has a wide foot. Super stiff carbon shoe, so I'll be clipped in. I use Wahoo Speedplay pedals, double-sided, makes it super easy to clip in and unclip when you need to. Love the ease, so that's what I'm wearing for the bike. I think it's also very important to have a safety kit. And what I mean by that is having enough tools and supplies to repair a flat tire. So for me, I run tubeless tires. So there's no tube in the tire. There's sealant, which in theory should plug up a small puncture on its own. But if that doesn't happen, or if the hole or puncture is bigger than what the sealant can handle, you gotta have a tube ready to go. So I have TPU tubes. I have one I'm carrying with me. It's very thin, lightweight. You also have to have tire levers. You gotta have either a mini pump or CO2 tanks to fill up the tube. And another little thing to carry on the bike is a mini tool. It's up to you how big or how small you get. I just got one that has 9 tools on it, from a Phillips head screwdriver to the various size Allen wrenches. So that's the perfect size for me. It'll cover most problems that I could encounter on the bike, whether it's tightening a cleat up or it's tightening any bolts on the bike itself. That gives me enough flexibility where I can cover any basis in case of an emergency. So you gotta be thinking about that, because you have no idea where any support may be along the trail, and you don't wanna be stuck out there with a flat, no supplies, unable to fix your own flat tire. So make sure you're prepared, you know how to, you have all the right supplies in case of an emergency. I hope it never happens. I hope it doesn't happen to me, but if it does, be confident that you know how to repair it, because most likely the amount of time it'll take for you to fix your own flat will be much shorter than waiting for maintenance support to come and help you out with that. So built into my frame is a little neoprene sleeve that houses 2 CO2 tanks, the adapter piece that connects to the valve, and 2 tire levers. So I'm gonna have all of that. I'm gonna have a spare TPU tube. Also, even though I run tubeless tires, you never know what's gonna happen. I've also added 4 water bottle cages to the bike. I try to go through 1 bottle per hour on the bike, and that houses my nutrition, that has the electrolytes inside of it. So ideally I'm trying to go for a sub 3-hour bike. So really that's 3 bottles, but you never know what's gonna happen. It could be super windy, going into a headwind that slows me down a little bit. So I'd rather be prepared and have all of the nutrition on me that I know works for my body. So I'm gonna be carrying 4 bottles, 1 in between my arms in the aero bars, 2 on the frame, and then 1 in the saddle behind me. So trying to be as aerodynamic as possible with the bottles as well. I have my Garmin computer on the bike. Even though I'm wearing the Garmin watch that's gonna track everything, I want to see those stats right in front of me when I'm tucked in into the aero position. So that's on the bike. To go off of liking to see my stats on the bike, I upgraded my bike with a power meter, the 4 power meter. I have that one side on the crank so I can maintain my goal power throughout the entire bike ride. Now for the run. Basically, I'm already wearing the majority of the run kit. I have the tri-suit on. That's what I'm gonna be wearing for the run. I'm gonna have a hat also. I'm gonna still wear the same Roka glasses. And then really all I have to throw on are my running shoes and my belt, my running belt. The belt is gonna hold the bib numbers. It has a few slots that holds gels. And then I still have 2 pockets in the tri-suit that can hold gels also. So I'm debating on carrying 1 or 2 little 8-ounce waistband bottles that have my electrolytes inside of it. So I can have my gels on the run and then be sipping on my Element electrolytes. So that's the tentative game plan for the run, is to fuel my body that way and to carry enough carbs on me where I can fuel my body appropriately. The overall nutrition game plan for race day is start off breakfast with 3 servings of oatmeal. That's what I eat every single day in addition to eggs. But for race day, I care more about carbs than I do about protein. So I'm not gonna take the time to make eggs. I have single serving oatmeal packs ready to go that I'll be consuming. Right before the race, I'm either gonna consume 1 Go bar or 1 Go gel, just depending on what I'm feeling. I'm also gonna be drinking 1 packet of Element prior to the swim, just to make sure I got electrolytes in me to start the day. In between the swim and the bike, I'm gonna have an extra bottle where I can consume carbs and electrolytes, and then also possibly have another Go bar or gel right before the bike so I can start the bike fueled up. The goal on the bike is, like I said, 1 bottle per hour. Within that bottle is gonna have 2 scoops of G1M Sport. That's gonna be 40 grams of carbs in the powder. Then I'm also gonna be having 1 Go gel every 30 minutes. So that's 24 grams per Go gel. So if I have 2 Go gels plus the 2 scoops of G1M, that's 88 grams of carbs. I may have an extra gel in there just to bump it up to 100 grams of carbs, but my goal is gonna be 60 to 100 grams of carbs, leaning towards the upper end of that with 88 to 100 plus grams of carbs per hour on the bike. It's gonna be super important for me to fuel appropriately on the bike, not only to get me through the bike, but to be strong on the bike, and then most importantly, to be fueled up and strong for the run. I don't wanna go into the run being behind on my nutrition plan, so I gotta make it a point and an effort to really stay fueled up on the bike. I already set my Garmin on the bike to notify me every 10 minutes to take a sip of water and then every 30 minutes to eat. So I have that going off. Of course, I can always drink or eat prior to that, and sometimes I do, depending on how I feel. But that's just a little reminder, just in case I haven't already, to stay on top of my fueling needs. Again, in between the bike and the run, I may have another Go bar, I may have a gel, just to top me off before I start. And then I'm going into the run every 30 minutes, a gel, and then I'm gonna try to have my Element, my electrolytes throughout the running as well. So I forgot to mention, in each bottle, in addition to the G1M Sport, is 1 packet of Element. When I think about sodium and electrolytes, I'm really only considering what is in the Element. Even though G1M Sport also has electrolytes, I think of those as the cherry on top, just a little extra. So I only consider my Element when I am thinking about electrolytes. So really, Element has 1,000 milligrams of sodium. 2 scoops of G1M is gonna have 500 or 600 more milligrams of sodium, but I'm not counting that. That is the overall nutrition game plan for the entire race day. I've talked about nutrition on the bike and the game plan for how I'm gonna eat, but I guess I never really talked about where it's all gonna go. On the back of my Roka tri-suit are 2 pockets. Because I plan on eating a gel every 20 to 30 minutes, I'm gonna have enough gels on me where I can grab very easily out of these back 2 pockets. But there's also a built-in bento box on top of my Canyon Speed Max. So that's a little box right on top, built in. It's got a little cover where I can put 5 or 6 gels in there. So really I could hold all my gels in there, but I'm gonna have a little supply in there, a supply in my back pocket so I can grab them, eat as I go, and then also grab from my bento box. So that's where I'll be grabbing my gels from on the bike. And then I have the carb powder and electrolytes in my bottle. So that's where both fuel sources on the bike will be. So let's talk about how I'm getting my bike down to Galveston, Texas from Philadelphia. On Facebook Marketplace, one of my favorite places to literally buy anything from, I bought a Thule bike travel case. It is a ginormous case, as you can imagine, because my bike has to fit inside of it. And after doing research, lots of YouTube videos, lots of articles, there was one main thing that I knew I needed and wanted in a bike case, and that was a hard shell bike case. They make plenty of soft shell bike cases, but I don't want to risk having my bike frame or anything being broken in transport, so I thought it was important to protect your bike by buying a harder case. I think it's worth a little bit more of an investment in a case considering how much some bikes are, and the last thing you want to do is cheap out on a bike case and risk having your bike break right before a race. So that wasn't gonna happen. By buying this bike case off Facebook Marketplace, I now have the ability to bring my bike to the airport. On Southwest, it's about 75 bucks to ship a bike each way, compared to the other option that I was told from friends who have shipped bikes in the past. There's an option, there's a website, I can't remember the name right now, but basically you take your bike to bike shops, they'll wrap it up for you, they'll box it up, and then they'll ship it using this service. But that service costs about $200 each way. So that's 400 bucks. The case I bought was 400 bucks. So while yes, after one use, having the bike case costs a little bit more money, but if I ever plan on traveling again with my bike, I now have the case where I have the flexibility to do that, and it's only gonna cost me 75 bucks if I use Southwest to travel. I decided to buy the bike case instead of using that shipping service. I've heard too many horror stories. If you have any horror stories of shipping your bike and it getting damaged along the way, please let me know. Comment below on your bike horror story, or hopefully your success story of shipping your bike somewhere for a big race.